welcome back to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. This is the podcast that features me, Jana Stern, energy healer and psychic, as I delve into conversations with different folks in the holistic and conscious industries about the many beliefs and practices of spirituality, mental health, and what it means to be a human who's into that stuff in 2021 and beyond. Welcome to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. I'm your host, Jana Stern, and I am joined by the most beautiful, most talented Lindsay Kokoska. I'm so happy that you're here. Please tell everybody who you are and what you do in this lifetime.
I am the person of all interests. I'm an artist. I've been an artist most of my life, and I'm also a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and everything in all between. Mom, wife, friend, nature lover, traveler, business person. I try to do it all.
Every single hat. You're like, if there's a hat, I will wear it.
Try every hat on, because I think sometimes you won't know what you're going to learn about yourself until you try something new. So
100%. I feel like every time that you try something new, you're like, oh, I had that in me. Who knew? Right?
yeah.
What would you say is the hat you love wearing? Obviously, I feel like mom is probably the answer. But other than mom, what's the hat?
Other than mom. Just FYI, I have to say my kid is the cutest, and it is the funnest hat. Sometimes it's the hardest hat to wear.
Sure.
And my main hat and my funnest hat would be like being an artist. Someone asked me the other day, would I have another kid? I'm like, well, I do. It's called art. Their name is art. And it's interesting because it's the funnest, but then I say that, then I'm thinking, no, I taught a yoga class yesterday. And when I'm teaching yoga, it's a natural flow. I don't plan my classes anymore. It's just automatic. So
you've been teaching for a really long time, right?
Yeah, since I was 18, and I'm really open with my age. I'm 44, but yeah, I've been teaching since I was 18, but practicing since I was about 15. I was a swimmer when I was a kid, like a racer, and then I had a period where I was like not hanging with the right people, left sports, and then when I got out of that, I was like, okay, I need to go into yoga. And so it was yoga and fitness and all of that. So most of my life has been some sort of sport, but yoga, I'd say, saved me and really put things in perspective for me. Yeah. I don't know what hat I love the most.
I understand.
Art and yoga besides mom, you know?
I agree with you. Yoga saved me too. It opened up portals for the path of meditation and healing and all of the other things that I do, all of that stuff that we're into. Yoga definitely paved the way for that. I'm in this phase of my practice right now where I'm practicing, as we say, off the mat quite a bit.
Yeah.
I haven't been practicing on the mat for some time now. And I've actually this morning got like a very clear, like, bitch, roll it out.
Yes, you have to.
Have you gone through cycles of being off the mat, of not practicing physically the asanas?
I cannot not practice. And if I can't practice yoga, I will do Pilates or I'll do weight training or HIIT or go for a walk. It's just my makeup that if I don't move, I will plummet. So it's mostly for regulatory reasons that I constantly keep it up. So that unless I'm really tired or I've had a busy day doing a lot of things, it's rare that I don't practice something. So right now, 3 to 4 times a week, the yoga practice, and then I obviously weight training, because I really think it's important to take care of like the bones and have the resistance. I just like moving. Sometimes I'm dreading it, but not the yoga, but sometimes the rest of it. But there are times I can say when I stopped teaching because it was training, but not practicing. So there was one point I was teaching 12 studio classes a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I burnt out quick and fast. I didn't stop practicing. I just couldn't
Hold the space.
I couldn't hold the space for others. Right now, I teach 2 classes a week, and I teach in the least busiest time. And the studio owner is not very happy about that. But I was like, look, I can't deal with 50 people in a class, because I want people who really want to practice to come, and they do. So that kind of eliminated just like random show ups. I live in a small community, so practicing with dedicated practitioners. Teaching dedicated practitioners is really important to me. I do like teaching new people, but it's really hard when I don't know if they're coming back or not. So it can be really draining. It's more about the energy in the space and teaching and people walking away and not knowing how they're doing or knowing and feeling everything from that energy in the space. And then it all just empties after. So that was a bit hard.
Yeah, holding space like that in a consistent way is incredibly draining. And yes, if there are people in the room who are not able to match it, they take it, right? They come in and either their being out of sync takes it, or their presence takes it, like their need for it takes it.
Yeah. And also the Western drive to like, I want that practice when they've not practiced for as long as I have, and them coming for a workout. And then this Western, look what I'm wearing. I can't handle it so much. I know it's part of it, but too much of it is an overload.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find that often to be true among teachers who've taught for a really long time or practitioners who've been in this world for a long time. If you came in on the scene 5, 8 years ago, you're like, yeah, that's what it is, right? But if you've been around the block, you're like, remember when all it was just moving your body for the sake of moving your body, and Lululemon didn't have their hands in things, and Alo Yoga wasn't pushing this thing and that thing, and it wasn't all like an appearance game, you know?
I mean, those companies definitely help promote the practice.
Which is great. Like, yay, Alo.
Yeah.
I love Lulu and Aloe. Let's not get this.
I do. It's just a different vibe, Western yoga in general, compared to when I started. I didn't go to a studio and go to the weekend and get a certificate in a studio. I went to India and I went to ashrams in different areas of the world and secluded myself to understand philosophy and really get in touch with myself, and took a lot of time away from the Western life to
deepened your practice.
Yeah, it's just different, my perspective. And there's a lot of people still doing that. And at the same time, it's not accessible for everybody to just jump on a plane. And I mean, I can't jump on a plane right now as a kid to go to India for a month. I want to do another training, but it's just different. It's changed. There's more trainings in the West than there was like 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Sure. It's interesting. I feel the same way about a lot of different practices, not just yoga, that as a Western society, we've become very spiritual, which is nice. I'm grateful for it. But we've also really appropriated and kind of destroyed a lot of things, because learning from a teacher who learned from a teacher who learned from a teacher who learned from somebody at an ashram, things get lost in the mix. And obviously on some quantum level, all is all, and when you have the knowledge, you have the knowledge, and how you evolve on it is how you evolve. But there really is a disconnect between where this came from and where it's going, and it's very hard not to make it this like Western fitness like thing, where yoga is not that really.
No. A few of my teachers always said, and it's funny that they always said it, exactly what we're saying, but at least they're practicing. And if they go to the gateway of the physical asana and they try it, the ones who discover what it really is will stay and grow in it. You know, at least people are trying it, just flipping it on the coin. Like, that's what my teachers would always say. At least they're trying it, and those who want it will stay.
Powerful. I'm sitting here thinking, get on your fucking mat, Jana. Just get on your mat.
And, you know, Jana, what's really interesting, even though I'm a teacher, I can lead myself, no problem. But when I'm on a mat, I'll pull out either my rocket yoga binder and I'll go through that sequence, or I'll put on a Ashtanga video and I'll listen to someone instruct me. Or if I want to feel something different from a different teacher, I'll go on YouTube or I'll use Alo Moves and I will follow another practitioner, because it's important. I might be a teacher, but I'm also the student. And we know that's the whole thing. It's like with art too. Yoga and art, you're always evolving. You're never stuck in one place. You're always moving forward. So it's really important to listen to other people's perspectives or hear the way other people teach. And also, it's really good that you surrender. So you're not so in control of everything. It's funny because that's a contradiction in yoga because you want to let go, but you need control. One of the reasons that I became a practitioner is that there's a lot of stuff that happened to me in my teenage, early 20s, where I'd go from this insane swimmer, then I was a Nirvana grunge teenager, smoking pot, drinking, then I cut it off, and then I was working out all the time, and then become a yoga teacher at 18, and then because I started raving all the time, then I was like, okay, I got to cut this, and I'd go up and down, but the one thing it did teach me is just, you're a human. You have to let go, but it does teach you this insane discipline.
Yeah.
The only thing that we can control in our lives is ourselves. So that's why I've done it, because it's the best detox if you feel like you're falling.
Yeah. My mat truly is one of the best places that's ever caught me when I've been in a place of darkness or feeling lost. I do know that myself is on my mat. And funnily enough, the irony is just before the pandemic hit, I bought a cork mat, which I was super excited about. I was like, cork, it's amazing. It's reusable, blah, 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 blah. But my old mat, my ratty, tattered mat that I had used for at least a decade, when I retired it, I've barely used my new mat because that old mat caught so many parts of me, and it's hard to trust something new, you know?
Well, the one thing I'll tell you is detachment will be your best friend.
Detachment. It's not my natural skill, detachment.
No.
Detachment and patience are my things that I'm like, no, I don't have that, but thank you.
The one thing with yoga, and you'll know this, is that to detach from any object, because you can practice on the floor. I mean, I've practiced with nothing. The practice wants us to just be present with it. So detachment at all costs.
Detach an arm, detach a leg, just
Suffering is attachment. Yeah.
You said that you had gone through some stuff. I'm curious how you got on the path, not just of yoga, but of this really spiritual self, because your art, which we've barely touched on, is incredibly meditative and spiritual in nature. Like, it's definitely an otherworld kind of experience, every single piece. And so I'm curious how that evolution began.
Well, I grew up with Catholic parents, and I knew at 3 years old, I wanted nothing to do with it. And it's not that there's anything wrong. It wasn't for me, and I knew very young. I always was very interested to discover what else was out there. When you're little and you see on TV, I used to go through encyclopedias, and I was a kid of the early 80s, and my parents are great. They subscribed to whatever magazine, and all these books would come, and I had everything. So instead of being in Google, I was in encyclopedias, reading about the world, reading about different people, knowing that different people didn't practice certain religions. They practice different ones. So to each their own. The path is many, the truth is one, which I learned in yoga later. That is the whole root of all. So at that young age, I knew that what my parents were choosing for me wasn't for me. And I'm glad that they love it. And my sisters still practice that, but I don't. I just really was like, what else is out there? What other explanations are there for all of this life? What are the other reasons? You know, it can't be so linear to one religious group. I don't see things linearly. Like, is that a word, linearly? I just made it up.
We're going with that. I was right there with you until you
In
said
a linear fashion. I just don't see it like that. And so I have been really fascinated with the cosmos, our cosmic existence. I think that's where it all stems from. I remember going to the library and not only looking at books about science, but also looking about books of cultures and other religions. And read things about the Torah. I read things about the Quran. I read about Sufism. And that's when I realized, oh, this is all about love. So all of the one message that I discovered without knowing the term path is many, truth is one back when I was younger. It was like, oh, this is all the same. Everybody just wants to be happy, loved, secured, and wants to believe that there is something protecting them outside themselves, which really is within them. And what I don't like about organized religion is that they're pushing that this entity is outside of you and the entity is all within you. And that's the most important thing for me. And I think that's why it's so reflected in my art, because like we have sacred geometry, we have nature, there's always the stars, the cosmos, we're stardust, we're born in not just chemically, but like metaphysically. So there's that concrete, scientific, you were born of all those particles and chemicals and everything. And then there's that metaphysical and spiritual, ethereal part of it, how and why they came together. I'm taking the concrete thing in a very expansatory thing and putting them together in my work to kind of just to show that we could be parallel in another universe. We don't know, but we do know that it's potential. So I made this term when I was putting together my art a few years ago. The creativity is boundless and everything is infinite possibilities. And that's kind of where I'm at, exploring what else is out there. And that's why I put it in my work. And my work can kind of fluctuate to abstract to figurative. I've studied lots. I'm a painter. Originally, I would only do paintings that you see on the floor there. Most of my walls are covered in my abstracts. And then over the years, I've mostly been putting out digital work. So I'm not afraid of technology. I use AI now. I don't just use AI. I just feel it's an evolution, just like we are as humans. That's kind of where I'm at with my work and my art. And I never want to put pressure on it.
You have to let yourself be flexible with it. As you were speaking, I was thinking about, I just read Deepak Chopra's You Are the Universe. And it's fascinating because in the beginning of the book, it's really technical. There's a lot of things that I was a little, not bored, but like kind of bored. I was like, are we going to get to the part where we're actually the universe? But then it really hits home on the path is many, but the truth is one. That there are so many potentials of what this reality could be. And then in comes religion saying this literal laundry list of rules that if you don't wash your hands like this and do this and bless this and avoid this and do a lot of this and blah, 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 then you're a good person. And from the idea that this could all be a total simulation, sure, maybe in this simulation, those things are necessary.
Yeah.
But religion also upholds that simulation, right? Religion also creates it in a new way. It enforces it because there's very much this control that's put, this bubble around us of this is your reality because we said so. And as soon as you start to break free of that a little bit, you're like, oh, actually, maybe everything is possible. It trips me out sometimes to think in that direction because as a species, we're so sure that we know.
Yeah, but we don't know.
We don't know anything.
No, we only know what we experience. And you and I, for example, what you perceive and I perceive can be 100% different. So,
yeah. Yesterday, I was saying that even two people who grow up in the same household with the same parents, language can even be vastly different to those two people who grew up exactly the same, right?
yeah, I have 3 sisters and their experiences of a lot of things. Some of them are very similar. Some of them are very different. And what they perceived in certain things and different family members is different than I perceive it.
So you guys are 4 girls, huh?
I have a younger sister and 2 older.
I have 4 brothers, so I feel you on the big family, but I always wanted sisters, always. In fact, I was at a party not long ago and good buddy was there with 2 of his sisters and they were just sistering, you know? And I was like, what is that like? I never had one. But I hear that it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, it's not. I don't know why we call it cat fights, but there's a lot of fighting. But having sisters and understanding the dynamic of relationships that women have is very interesting.
I imagine you relate to women differently. Having Pole sisters, I imagine your connection to sisterhood is very different.
Yeah, maybe to my detriment. Maybe I trust people a little bit too much. So I have to be careful.
For me, sisterhood has become something obviously I choose. I
Yeah.
have a girlfriend that's been in my life my entire life. She is my sister. But then I have lots of girlfriends that I've met throughout my lifetime, much like you, that I'm like, those are my sisters. Those are my soul sisters. Those are the people that I connect with in a way that it ripples a little bit deeper, that we understand each other on a different kind of level. And I'm always grateful for them, but with such a robust relationship to what sister means, because you've got so many different ones. How does it hit different with girlfriends that feel like sisters and your actual sisters?
I know a lot of people, and a lot of my friends that I met abroad, for example, and they've lived in different countries. So there's always a connection, and I can always call them up or pick up where we left off, which is great. I think I said it before. I can read people really well. I was learning how to read 3
Mm.
different women, plus my mother, 4 different women, and my grandmother, 5 different grandmothers on my grandmother, my mom's mom, my sisters, trying to decipher
Mm.
each person every day of my whole life, trying to
Right.
understand what she meant, understanding passive aggressiveness, understanding speaking in a proper way, understanding genuine help versus my sister's she's
Manipulation.
manipulating me. So I understand these relationships between women. I can spot it now. I think it helps me to spot it, but also I always still love my sisters. So for me, with most women, I have to really get to know them and to understand, are they here to be my friend for my best interest, or are they here for something else? Because I find historically, sometimes women can be quite manipulative and you don't really know it.
My intuition for that kind of thing is usually pretty good, but when I get blindsided by it, it knocks me out, especially because I don't have sisters.
Yeah.
So that intuition isn't there in the same way, you know?
Yeah. With friends, you just want to know that people have your back.
Yep.
And when they don't, or you perceive that they did and then they don't, it's really a hard pill to swallow. So it's important just to keep your circle close. You know a lot of people, that keep your inner circle close. It's my big lesson, my big Web3 lesson.
My Web3 lesson, I mean, I can't say that my circle is small in Web3. I know a lot of people and I'm close to a lot of people. One of the people in my life that I considered a sister throughout the pandemic stopped being my sister for a multitude of reasons. So there was a big gap in my world, and Web3 filled that gap. And the people in Web3, I'm close to so many of them in so many different ways that it feels like I'm almost filling that hole, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I can't say that my circle is small, but I can say that my inner circle is small.
Inner circle is what I mean. Keep your inner circle small.
Also, I think men can be manipulative too, right? But it's just not their way.
Everyone can be manipulative.
Yeah, because we're all just trying to control our realities.
Naturally, as women, we trust men less, so we're always sussing them out beforehand anyway. So we're trained to suss the guys out and be like,
yeah. I know that there are some women that I meet and I'm like, nope, not for me. I'm good. Thank you so much. But that feels to me always like intuition, not judgment, which is hard to communicate. Like, no, I'm not judgmental. This person is just ick.
some people are just meant to be. And for example, in the Web3 space, we
Mm.
were all funneled in a very critical time when we're all vulnerable during the
Yes.
pandemic. Everything happens for a reason. I don't ever regret anything. I met a lot of people dropped off. I've made a lot of great friends and acquaintances, and it's great. For me, I just need to keep it quite small.
especially I imagine as an artist in the Web3 space, because there's this weird competition of seeking clout and having your name in this place and that place and feeling welcome here and being a part of that project and this thing and this many followers. And I imagine it kind of sours the experience of being an artist a little bit.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I totally love the technology, blockchain technology. Socially, the dynamic in Twitter specifically and Web3, it is exactly that. And I've always felt on the outskirts of a lot of things, even though I've been in the middle of it, which is so weird. But I've never felt good about chasing certain groups or certain people. I know who I know, but I'm not in a whole lot of popular groups. It's not my MO. It's not how I roll. If I have to grind a little harder, a different way, I will. And it's funny because on the parallel side of that, I still use Instagram. It's just a different situation for me over there. I interact with, I don't want to call them followers or community. And like some of them are fans and they're constantly supporting my work. I hit a niche of people who resonate with my work. And it feels good to do that. Whereas I don't have to, people think it's difficult. It's not. When you hit a niche and people support you, you can keep going. But other than that, we're in the Web3 space, the artist circle. It's small, but there's lots of different groups. And it's mostly artists with artists. The fan base isn't in there. So the artists, and I include it myself, I'm not outside of this, but for a long time, we're all here in, especially 2021, 22, fighting for a small group of collectors because there's no massive group of people outside of the space coming in and looking at the art and commenting and liking. It's either other artists liking your work or collectors liking your work.
Yeah, because the Web3 space is so...
It's still closed. It's totally closed. I'm not saying people can't enter it. It's not adopt it yet. For art exposure, I don't mind building in what they call Web 2. It's an art portfolio where people can interact with me. I can put my work out. I can gauge what works and what doesn't work. I experiment with different mediums. I experiment with lots of things. And I post a few times a week and I see what work resonates the most, and then I keep going.
I understand that. And as you were speaking, I was starting to see this future where there actually are thousands of people being just fans and collectors and interested in what's going on and buying the same way they buy on Etsy or wherever they're buying your pieces. I see that happening, but sometimes because everything in Web3 moves so damn fast, it feels like everything is so slow in other parts of reality that I'm like, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get to the place where there are all those fans and people? Because I'm building that too, not necessarily as an artist, even though I am an artist, but building in Web3 right now feels like, who am I building for?
Well, we had a window there. It was glorious, but it was all rug pulls.
Yep.
And it really fucked it up for the artists.
Yes.
And it's not saying we can't unfuck it, but it got fucked. My motto is don't keep your eggs all in one basket. People talk about building. I'm like, if we need the people in, I got to keep building over here and still do what I'm doing here because I can slowly trickle people in as they want to. I can't force anybody. I'm not going to get on my Instagram and go NFTs, come on over, get on Twitter. I teach about the self and beyond the self. And that's who I am. I'm not going beyond that. I'm not going to be something I'm not.
I really feel grateful for the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the space because we needed those fuckers to be exposed. Like we needed them to be shown for who they are and what they are doing, because really we know Web3 does not exist. Web 2.5 exists, but Web3 doesn't. And we needed to clear out the muck from the space because, you know, I came into this world of blockchain with the intention of creating a better world, creating a space where people are mindful, they're focused on themselves in a positive way, not in an egocentric way. They look out for one another, and everything is transparent. Everything is clear and obvious in a world where we've lived the opposite. Follow the money, and where the fuck is the money going, and who's got it, and BlackRock and Vanguard. Who are you people? Who are you owned by? What is this money? Who's manipulating what behind the scenes? All the child trafficking and adult trafficking and all these things couldn't happen on the blockchain, because I would be able to see, oh, that one got on Epstein's plane, must be up to no good. The world can't exist the way that it did on the blockchain. And so all of those fuckers who've been pulling the rugs and taking everybody's money, I'm glad, like, please be exposed more. If there are more of you still in this space, I pray that there is more exposure.
I hope everybody gets exposed. I think it's really unfortunate when people think that they can milk other people and get away with it. It's not cool. But that being said, we can still build this better world for people without any labels of what genre it belongs to. So I'm just going to be like trying to like live as authentically as I can, make the art, do the practice, be a good mom, be an awesome wife, travel, eat really good food. I'm at a point right now where I just don't want to listen to the hype. And as one of my really good friend, Clarina NFTP, says, things can be very myopic. And I'm not a myopic. That's not ever how I've ever been. And you'll know this when I tell you this, and you can explain further to the listeners if they'd like.
Sure.
My 9th house is in Cancer with Jupiter on the 29th degree. So I've always been expansive in my travels or my education or higher learning. It's always been very expansive for me. It's never been, oh, we need to focus just on this and this group of people, and we'll only do this. I'm like, what else is out here? When I was in New York, one of my friends sees me in person, and they're in a pretty tight community, and they said to me, Lindsay, you know, so many pockets of different people. I'm like, yeah, not just in this space.
Right.
Because I'm just like that. I network because I really genuinely want to know people. I could call my friend up in Thailand and be like, what's going on there today? If I felt like it, you know. I have a friend that's teaching in Malaysia. I have my husband's family in Morocco. My sister lives in Australia. I have friends in Asia, Europe, South America. We are not all living on the same existence. And I find, especially in Western culture, and the space is focused mostly in Western culture, even though there's so many international people, but everyone's focused on this American thing. And these are unhealthy expectations to put on anyone. So if I could impart wisdom to anybody, it's just like, fuck it, just do it. Do whatever fucking works for you.
Amazing. I'm with you. That's the world I'm trying to build too, where everybody is doing what works for them, and that's enough. And whatever it is that you're bringing to the table is exactly what you're supposed to bring. No one's coming to you and saying, did you prepare this? You show up in Web3 with, hey, these are my skill sets, and the right people find you. And I agree. You have to just do the things that feel good, because then doing them feels good, and you don't feel like you're being taken from what you're supposed to be doing, which is how we've built society for, I don't know, centuries, millennia.
The hardest thing about what I do with technology is that I love nature so much, and this takes so much time. And these glasses, product of
Screens.
time, you know, they're prescription.
Do you know that there are tools, spiritual tools, or maybe non-Western tools that actually help you to strengthen your eyes?
You can send them to me, I will do them.
Also, glasses, unsurprisingly, weaken your eyes. The more you wear them, the more you need glasses, because your eyes adjust. They expect for the glasses to help. And so it's like any other muscle, right? If you soften the muscle softens more, and then you need a higher prescription because the muscle's weak. There are these glasses, they're like big sunglasses, but they have holes in them. And they strengthen your eyes because your eyes need to look through multiple holes to see what it's seeing. And your eye ignores the plastic and just looks through all of these holes. And it definitely strengthens your eyes. So there's those. And I think you can probably get them on Amazon. And then I have a girlfriend who does iridology, which is the study of the irises, which is a super fucking cool thing. And she talks about this, where you can actually strengthen your eyes over time instead of weaken them. Weakening them is this Western thing of prescriptions.
I'm up to trying anything. I haven't had to change my prescription, luckily, since 2019. No, 2020. It's been 3 years.
I'm very blessed that I have better than perfect vision and my eyes are very strong, but it's not easy staring at screens all day long.
No. And besides the eye thing, there was a time when I spent a lot more time in nature. Pandemic plus this Web3 NFT space, I think a lot of people went through because there's constantly reminders to go outside and stuff. Today, after we're done, I'm going to practice because I didn't get to practice this morning because I have a kid getting him to school. So I'm going to go for a walk in nature before I pick him up. The school that he go to has this amazing park, like 5 minutes away. I actually have to write it in. The one thing I've implemented a lot is just writing, even if it's a chaotic mess, I just write it all down, write what I'm going to do today. It's a mess. I have a journal here, another journal there, a whiteboard here, a note on the whiteboard, plus one of those calendars where anything goes down here, because it's really important to make sure that you do plan those things for yourself.
Yes, my desk is wood, but it has a glass top, so it's my whiteboard. I write all over it all the time, and I'm always this list and that thing and these things that I need to remember. And then I have most of my stuff in my calendar. I used to use my physical calendar a lot, but now I use my digital because I work in the digital world. So I hear you about not getting into nature. I used to also just be totally unplugged, sometimes for hours, if not days at a time. And my email signature literally says, it's going to take me 72 hours to get back to you because my life does not always exist on the computer. But thanks, Web3.
I taught English for a long time to travel. And when I was living in Asia and the Middle East, and I enjoyed it, but it was structured and I just go and teach English. It was to adults. I'd probably do that again later on, just to get a free apartment in another country. Yeah. They want me to teach 3 classes a night and they'll pay me this amount of money to do it. And I'll be like, sure. And I'll still do the rest of my stuff. That's why I was a teacher for a long time, because I had all this freedom to create. It's not a bad gig. But in the Western system, I taught in a public school for 2 years. And after 2 years in a public school system, I mean, most of the time, my experience prior was private institutions or international schools, which I loved. 2 years in a public school system in Canada. I think I have PTSD from it.
I don't know a single person that is a teacher that is okay.
English teaching was good. I had a lot of great experiences in South Korea, in the Middle East, a lot of respect, and students that really wanted to thrive and learn, but also it wasn't this weird curriculum where you're forcing stuff and putting people through just because you have to. But it's not even about that. It was more about the schools are like jails. My son's school, no, he lives. He might as well live there, because I mean, it's a little schoolhouse. They have pillows and they have a gated forest and it's free. He spends most of the time there during this, so he kind of lives there. But I worked at a Waldorf Steiner school in Marrakesh. We had an olive garden.
Not a restaurant, a literal garden that grew olives.
We had an olive garden and we baked bread. We did activities outside.
We're so diseased.
Yeah. For me right now, it's super important as an artist and a business person, because I am a working artist. But in order for me to set up, to be an artist, I've had to set up a shop. I've had to learn marketing. So I have a business degree. And also there's a lot of factors where you don't know if it's going to work or not. And as a parent, you make sure you have a backup plan. So Web3 has been great for me. I worked in social media for people. I've done project management. And so it's great because it made me realize I didn't have to go back to the prisons, and I've worked in PR firms and agencies and stuff like that, but it's not the same.
No, I agree with you. I think that the school system as we've known it is incredibly oppressive, and thank you, Henry Ford, because it was created so that we would have really good factory workers. And the school system and the prison system are run exactly the same way, slightly differently, but not really. And it's all so that people will comply and obey and fall in line to what they want us to do. And I never liked school for that reason. It was easy for me, too easy. Like I can just, I was the only person at my school, and I went to a very strict, difficult school. I went to a private high school, and everybody had hours and hours of homework and things to do and work. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna just hand in whatever I hand in and do whatever the fuck I do because whatever. And I never got it. I never understood why we do that to our children. And I think if God has it in the cards for me that I'll have children, I don't think I'll do that.
Those 2 years that he was in the public system were the worst. But also, luckily, in a way, the pandemic hit, so he was home with me. But I'm moving again in a few months, and I'm looking at another Waldorf Steiner school. Yeah, you have to pay for this stuff, but I'd rather pay for this because I don't know if he wants to go to uni.
Right.
Maybe he won't need to, like in the day and age that we live in.
Right. I mean, go to YouTube University and you can know more than most adults that have doctorates.
You can go to Google and become an apprentice.
Yeah, exactly. He can go on Chat GPT and not even need to know so many things and use his brain for all kinds of creative things.
He might want to go and scuba dive and be a scuba dive instructor for all I know. Or maybe he wants to make shoes, and I'm cool with whatever, but I think it's better to pay the money at a younger age for these holistic education experiences, because otherwise I feel the system puts kids in danger, in indoctrination, all these things.
Yes. And then you have to spend your adolescence, your teens and your 20s, like we did, figuring out yourself. And already astrologically, Saturn is returning at that time towards the end of your 20s. So you do have this remembering, but the forgetting part happens because we're so plugged into something that says, this is how you behave and this is how you do. And you pee at this time and you eat at this time and you do like this. And there's no trust in yourself.
After that 29-30 Saturn return, when is the next one? What age bracket does it happen in?
Something. 67. Depending on where. So Saturn doesn't move in a circle, it moves in an ellipse. So depending on where Saturn was at the time of your birth, it could take 27, but it could take 29 years to return. So it is dependent on how close to the Earth Saturn was when you were born as to how long it will take to get back to where it was.
Mine's in Virgo.
It's funny. I know a lot of things, but when I'm in one headspace, I often think about my life in buckets, like vases of things. And if I'm talking about one thing and then you ask me something else, so if you were to be like, what crystal is this? I could literally be like, oh, I don't know about crystals. I'm so sorry. But I am a literal encyclopedia. I'm just not in that. I'm not in the bucket. I'm not in that silo. And it really frustrates me. I wish I was better like that. But
you feel like you're not as fluid between your subjects?
It depends on the moment. It really, really does.
Wonder what your placements are that you actually compartmentalize your life.
I don't know. We say that the best place to learn about astrology is in your chart first. So I'll have to dig. We're all such complicated beings, even though we're all so simple. Everything is energy, right? So you probably want to learn more about your energetic body. I've written a book about the chakra system that explains each of the 7 major chakras, how they work, how to know if they're out of balance, and how to activate and align yourself so that you can bring yourself into a state of well-being in body and in spirit. Want to get your copy? Go to solo.to/Jana Stern and click Buy My Book today. Are you a crazy crystal lover like me? I have a digital collection of crystals that give you a channeled message and a lifetime discount on all services with me. Choose from over 50 of some of my favorite crystal magic punks by heading over to solo.to/Jana Stern and clicking Crystal Magic Punks on Polygon. Have you been asking the universe what you're meant to do in this lifetime? Our birth chart is the map that shows us the path to ourselves and helps us to live in alignment with our purpose. If you want access to a natal chart reading with me at a crazy discount, visit solo.to/Jana Stern and click on the Higher Being on Ethereum to purchase.
People
know?
always ask, and I'm sure they ask you too, how do you know about astrology? I mean, it's a lifelong learning. I've taken a million courses as of
Mhm.
you, and like you even offer readings to people. I haven't actually gone that far yet to offer
Mm.
readings, but it's interesting. The more that you understand it, then you're able to interpret more. The way that I'm able to just visually correlate things now, and I'm still like in infancy of my learning in astrology, I believe, even though it's been a while, it's crazy.
Astrology is the thing that keeps me humble because I don't know anything about anything. One of my teachers who has been in this industry since the 60s writing horoscopes in the papers will happily say that he's a student of astrology. You can't know everything about the whole wide universe. You
Who's your
just can't.
teacher?
Yeah.
Who's your teacher?
His name is Rick Levine. Do you know Rick?
Me too. Love that guy. I did his courses on astrology.com. He's the best.
He's a wizard.
He is a wizard, literal wizard.
He's Merlin. He's Rick Merlin. That's what he goes by.
My other teacher, her name is Jana Romer. You would like her. She's
I
really
know her. I know Jana.
I love Jana. She's great.
I love Jana too.
Jana's.
I love Jana too. No, I do. I love her. She's great.
During the pandemic, I did a lot of stuff with Rick Levine's courses and Jana.
During the pandemic, I took maybe it was 5 days or 6 days or 4 days with Kai Pacha. He did this big Astro Hub thing.
This makes me want to go back and continue to learn more.
Do it. You can never know enough. There's just so much to know and so many incredible teachers. And I think on the other side of this project that I'm working on, that's where I'd like to put my energy again, because I feel like I've lost parts of me in building other things for others, which is great, but I just need to get back to the stars.
It's funny you say that because when I got into Web3, I started a Rick Levine course. I didn't finish it because I got into the space.
Huh.
And I was studying, I was really into astrology. I was doing as much as I could. And I was really in a crazy place where I was evolving with my work. And then that first few months in 2021, creating the competition and the intensity of marketing crushed that in me. But at the same rate, I pulled back internally from the other stuff because this is more important. And then I watched everything happen, the financial things. It was a pretty good year for me. It wasn't a monstrous year or anything, but I had to stay aligned. One of the things I said to my friend yesterday that was really important for me to come back to that place before the pandemic, because it was this precipice of something. And I'm not saying that the precipice was the NFT space, or was not, but I'm saying that there was a spiritual elevation that was happening, and everybody in the pandemic got sucked into something. I'm ready to go back up. I'm not saying it dropped, but I think that there was another level of consciousness to pass.
I feel you on that. And that's part of why I can hear this calling to get back on my mat. You know, don't try and do in it, just be in it. That really is the thing that Web3 is teaching me right now. Just, can you be here now?
Mm-hmm.
And also have all these whirling things all over the place, because that's where the balance needs to be focused right now.
Every time I look at my child's face, or I see my husband and my child together and we're together, and I just see them smiling, I realize my son, his well-being, his life is really important now, that nothing else really matters, taking care of him. And I'm not saying I forget myself, because I will not forget myself. It's not in me to let go of my dreams or anything like that, but it's about perspective and going at a pace that suits you. And we keep going back and forth between the space and this topic of spirituality, but it's really important not to let that space, or any space at that matter, or society or religion, dictate what works and what's going to help you grow. Because as soon as you start having others influence you, or a society influence you, you start to dote. So cutting away things that don't work for you are really important. That's scary. But making sure that we put everything in perspective and only do the things that really feel aligned.
Yeah. And don't do things that you don't want to do. Well, this has been lovely. I'm so grateful that you were able to make the space today to have this conversation. I'm just grateful for your friendship and just happy that you were able to be here.
I'm happy too. This is fun. Definitely fun. We should do it again.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. See you again in a couple of weeks with another episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. Follow along with us on Instagram at I'm Really Into That Stuff, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. If this episode resonated with something that you're really into, share it with someone you love. Sending you strength, peace, love, and light until next week.